For our community engagement project, we focused on the organization Friends of Trees. I'm Penelope Mares.
And I'm Kelsey Chong.
What is Friends of Trees? Friends of Trees inspires people to improve the world around them through a simple solution: planting trees together. Friends of Trees is a nationally recognized regional leader in improving the urban tree canopy and restoring sensitive natural areas through programs delivered by thousands of volunteers. Friends of Trees greens our region while growing community.
A little bit about Friends of Trees. So it started in 1989, and they have planted over 750,000 trees and native shrubs in the Portland, Vancouver, Salem, and Eugene, Springfield metro areas. They have brought together thousands of volunteers in over 120 neighborhoods in 6 counties across Oregon and Washington. Given the rising temperatures and all that we know about the cooling and cleansing effects of trees, it's easy to see how their work improves our natural environment.
So some more information. The pillar of sustainability that is most important to our organization is environmental. Their organization focuses on the restoration of the urban tree canopy. The trees planted by Friends of Trees plays a vital role in our region's livability. Due to rising temperatures, the trees' cooling and cleansing effects help to improve our natural environment. The trees also help to offset people's carbon footprint. Friends of Trees provides a band-aid solution to the problem. They're doing their best, but the amount of deforestation is huge. The amount of trees that they plant doesn't really make a huge significance regarding carbon sequestration. You would need to increase the amount of trees in order to make a bigger difference in the amount of carbon dioxide that is removed from the atmosphere.
Now we will have you listen to 2 interviews featuring 1 volunteer named Giles and 2 crew leaders named Courtney and Eirik. Eirik is also a neighborhood coordinator. How does the organization run on a human, practical level?
It's all about getting small teams of people to go out and plant trees, and so there's kind of different tiers of folks. There's sort of the baseline volunteers, and the next step up is being a crew leader, and the next step after that I think is a community coordinator or something, and then above that are actual folks that work at the nonprofit.
What do you think motivates members?
I think Portland in general is just very environmentally conscious, so a lot of the volunteers, they want to see the urban tree canopy grow, and a lot of them are actually the homeowners that purchase these trees, so they definitely want to be there, see that tree put in, and there's something about when you plant a tree, knowing that you planted it and cultivated it, seeing it grow over years, makes you, I think, really proud of it.
You're more invested in the tree.
Yeah.
What do members hope to achieve?
Definitely grow the Portland city's tree canopy coverage. I think we're one of the few cities in the U.S. where the tree canopy is actually growing, not receding. What do you think?
So what do we hope
What
to?
do members hope to achieve?
Yeah, that, and just seeing greener spaces and having more accessibility for folks to interact with nature, especially in an urban setting.
Okay. How do you think they gauge their effectiveness?
So we have those tree monitoring programs homeowners can sign up for. They send out tree assessors to monitor the trees, make sure they're doing okay, provide replacements if they die. So we definitely gauge the progress of the trees that way.
There's also Portland Parks keeps a street tree inventory, so they can actually track the numbers and the mortality rates. But I think the figure that the organization is most proud of is just in the almost 30 years they've been around, they've planted hundreds of thousands of trees. So that's a really good indicator of how effective they've been.
Mm-hmm. And what do you guys see as the root cause of the problem?
The problem of
Not enough trees.
Not enough trees.
I mean,
probably all these buildings. Portland is gentrifying at an extreme rate, and in order to put up all these buildings, you got to take down trees to allow for construction. So it's definitely a growing pain of the city.
Yeah, there's that. There's also just urban trees have a harder life cycle. So they tend to not be as long-lived as trees out in the forest. And then Yeah, we're experiencing a lot of climate issues too. So there's a lot of factors that are making it harder for trees. So it's good to have organizations like this to kind of help come alongside and keep them happy and healthy, or at least be replacing ones that die.
Awesome. Thank you so much. How does the organization run on a human or practical level?
They treat volunteers very well, and equity is a big deal in this organization. You can see by some people's name tags that you can even choose your pronouns you want to be called, and you being yourself is very important.
What do you think motivates members?
Planting trees, giving back to nature, creating community by planting with your neighbors.
What do they hope to achieve?
Increase the tree canopy over Portland, and make the air cleaner for all of us.
How do you think they gauge their effectiveness?
Number of trees planted, number of events, communities, number of volunteers, many different ways of measuring.
And what do you see as the root cause of the problem of not having trees?
I think development. The city of Portland has focused on allowing a lot more development than it used to, and so we lose a lot of trees in the process, mature trees, and then they get replanted with little guys, and they take many years to grow. So that's. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, what is the issue? Why do we need to plant trees? Greenhouse gases are increasing in the atmosphere and causing climate change. Carbon sequestration, a process where carbon dioxide is pulled from the atmosphere and stored for a long period of time, may be one way to slow or reverse the accumulation of CO2 in Earth's atmosphere. Trees are very important for carbon sequestration because they live a long time and therefore store their carbon for many years. Planting trees remains one of the cheapest, most effective means of drawing excess CO2 from the atmosphere. Friends of Trees works to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and reduce the impacts of climate change. Scientists, policymakers, and citizens are trying to determine how to decrease and possibly reverse the emissions of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide.
So where exactly is the carbon stored? It's stored in 4 different places usually. So it's stored above ground, in long-lived products, soil, or in inorganic carbon in soils and rock. For above ground, it's stored in the leaves, stems, and other parts of the plants when they absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use it to grow. For long-lived products, wood and other products made from trees still contain the carbon absorbed by the plants that they previously came from. For soil, trees produce large quantities of roots that contain carbon. The rotting leaves, debris, and soil organisms also contain carbon. For inorganic carbon in soils and rock, carbon in the soil can slowly develop into other forms, including some types of rock, which are very stable and hold carbon in soil for a very long period of time.
So for our experience, what we did is we planted trees. There were already holes that had been dug when we got there, but we had to expand those holes to fit the trees that we needed to plant. And each neighbor gets to pick which tree they want. So each person got their specific tree, and we would dig the holes, put the tree in, add more soil, and then we would build a little moat thing to keep the water in, and then we would water the plant, and then we would hit some stakes into the ground and then tie those stakes to the tree so that the tree wouldn't fall down while it was growing and mess everything up. And then we would put a sticker on it telling the neighbors how to care for the tree and little tricks and fun facts. It was fun.
So from my experience, I had a great time. The people there were very friendly and passionate about planting trees. I would definitely recommend other people to volunteer with them. I thought it was a great way to get involved with people, and the organization really wants to help our planet. And I learned that there are lots of more ways to help with Friends of Trees besides actually planting trees. You can also donate food, drive, or bike around trees.
For me, my experience was really great. Everybody working there was so nice and welcoming, and in our group there were people who had never planted trees with Friends of Trees before, but other people had been to four or five plantings, and everyone was very willing to teach, and it was a great time. We also stumbled across a little preschool that had goats that we were able to feed. It was really fun.
And if you want free food, they have breakfast before, and then afterwards there's a little potluck for all the volunteers. Here are some pictures.